My life seemed perfect, or so I believed. A woman I adored, a home we had built together, and an empire I painstakingly constructed, brick by brick. But one fateful day, the foundation of my reality crumbled beneath me. It began with a single photo, an innocent wedding photo I had admired for years. Now, that cherished image told a story I could no longer ignore. Betrayal, it seemed, could not be masked by perfume. If the person you loved most, the one you gave everything to, betrayed you, what would you do? My answer was clear. I would destroy them. My hands trembled as I grabbed the silver-framed wedding photo from my desk. My fingers clenched the edges as I fought to contain the fury rising in my chest. That photo was supposed to immortalize the happiest day of my life. Katie's vibrant red hair glistened under the summer sun, her radiant smile exuding pure joy. Once, that smile had been my peace, my sanctuary. Now, it was a cruel reminder of whispered lies and broken promises. For 15 years I had trusted her, believed her every word, clung to every promise she made. I thought it was all real. But as I stared at that photo, something inside me shattered. The memories we shared, the moments I once cherished, the I love yous I thought were genuine, all of it was now tainted, hollow, false. A buzzing sound snapped me from my thoughts. My phone lit up with messages from Mitch about the Henderson construction project, the biggest deal my company had ever undertaken. They needed my approval, but I didn't care. My mind was consumed with Katie, her betrayal, and the signs I had chosen to ignore. The sudden appearance of new clothes, the secrecy of password updates on her phone, the late-night meetings I had brushed off. It had all been there, glaring at me, and I had been too blind or too trusting to see it. My secretary's voice interrupted my spiraling thoughts. Mr. Miller Thompson is here. He'd like to discuss the downtown project. Send him in, I said, my voice steady and authoritative as always. People knew me for my decisiveness, and now was no time for weakness. I shoved the wedding photo into a desk drawer, burying it beneath stacks of documents. I wouldn't let my personal turmoil show. This was a battle, and I was prepared to fight. When Thompson entered, his demeanor was as smug as ever, the air of a man who thought his wealth could solve all problems. He was mistaken. We need to revise the timeline, he began, his tone dripping with entitlement. The timeline stays as it is, I shot back, my voice cold and resolute. Your financial delays don't alter my schedule. The tension in the room was palpable. Everyone present understood one thing. David Miller didn't tolerate being robbed, of money, of time, or of trust. Everything I had fought for, and now I resolved to fight with the same tenacity for the truth about Katie. As Thompson left, Mitch barged in without knocking. Years of friendship had earned him that privilege, but his expression betrayed a weight he was struggling to carry. David, the Henderson project files are ready, he said. His voice measured. Jessica Henderson called twice this morning. Jessica, Katie's mentor. The woman who had been instrumental in our success, before everything started unraveling. Now, her name only reminded me of Katie's betrayal. I stared Mitch down, my voice sharp. How long have you known? His face darkened as he tried to dodge the question, but eventually he caved. I saw them at Riverside Cafe last month, he admitted reluctantly. They looked like they were talking business, but those looks, it wasn't business. Reaching into his pocket, Mitch pulled out a business card. Rebecca Torres, private investigator. Is good. You should have her look into it. I took the card, its edges crisp beneath my fingertips. I twirled it absently as the truth began to crystallize. The signs had been there all along, and now I could see them with devastating clarity. Katie's betrayal wasn't just a crack in my world. It was an earthquake. But if she thought she could destroy me without consequences, she was mistaken. I had built an empire out of nothing, and now I would use every resource I had to uncover the truth and dismantle the lies she had built around me. The moments I had ignored over the years played like a haunting symphony in my mind. Katie's words, her touches, her reassurances. All of it, I now realized, had been part of a cruel, orchestrated game. "You should have told me sooner," I said to Mitch, my voice low but heavy with regret. "Would you have believed me?" he asked. His eyes filled with a concern I had never seen before. "You've been protecting Katie since the day she walked into your life." A memory surfaced unbidden. My father's funeral, just 6 months ago. Katie had been there, holding my hand, offering me comfort as I grieved. But now, the question lingered like a dark cloud. Had she already been with Robert Walsh back then? Had her betrayal cast a shadow over one of the most painful days of my life? Mitch placed a firm hand on my shoulder. His voice steady but edged with anger. "This is on her, not you. But what happens next is up to you." That day I made my decision. I picked up the phone and called the number on the card Mitch had handed me. "Rebecca Torres," came the voice on the other end, calm and professional. "When can we meet?" I asked, the determination in my voice unmistakable. "Tonight at 8, she replied. And so it began. When I walked into Rebecca's office, her firm handshake and sharp eyes left no doubt. She was the best. "Tell me everything," she said, her tone leaving no room for hesitation. I laid it all out for her. The changes in Katie's behavior, her late nights, the locked phone, the excuses that once seemed plausible but now felt like threads unraveling a tapestry of lies. Rebecca listened intently, her pen moving with precision across a notebook as though she were already piecing together the puzzle. "We'll need at least 3 months of surveillance," she said finally, snapping her notebook shut. "Phone records, emails, physical tracking. My brother Michael handles the digital side, NSA background. He knows how to stay within the lines." "Money's not an issue," I said flatly. Rebecca paused, her gaze sharp. "One more thing," she added. "Robert Walsh hasn't just targeted your wife. He's done this to other women in at least 3 cities. He manipulates successful women, destroys their relationships, and leaves their lives in ruins. He's careful but not careful enough." Her words ignited a fury within me. Katie's betrayal was personal, but knowing she had been ensnared in Walsh's schemes made it even worse. I gave Rebecca a single instruction. Gather everything, track their every move, but make them feel safe. Let them believe they'd gotten away with it. The weeks that followed were a carefully constructed masquerade. To the world, and to Katie, I remained the perfect husband, attentive and loving. Behind the scenes, however, Rebecca and her team worked tirelessly, assembling a damning case. The evidence was relentless. Hotel receipts, clandestine meetings in parking lots, intimate dinners disguised as business discussions. Every detail was meticulously documented. One day, Rebecca looked at me, her expression resolute. "We're ready. We have everything we need to bring them down." I nodded. The plan was already in motion. Katie, unaware of the web closing in around her, thought she was planning a surprise dinner for the 2 of us. Little did she know, the evening was scripted, every detail designed to expose the truth. When Katie and Robert arrived at the hotel, Rebecca's team was already in place. Cameras rolled silently, capturing every moment. Documents lay waiting on the table, and sitting there, her expression cold as steel, was Sandra, Robert's wife. As Katie stepped into the room, her gaze locked onto Sandra. Confusion flickered across her face, quickly replaced by panic as her eyes darted to the stack of evidence in front of her. "Is there something you'd like to explain, Katie?" I asked, my voice devoid of the warmth it once held. Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came. The silence was suffocating, a thick, heavy blanket that pressed down on everyone in the room. Sandra turned to Robert, holding up the damning documents. "Is this clear enough for you?" she asked, her voice ice-cold. "You're not just a cheater. You're a con artist." Katie began to beg, tears streaming down her face as she pleaded for my forgiveness. But I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just emptiness. Without a word, I walked away, leaving her and Robert to face the wreckage they had created together. When I returned home, Katie's belongings had already been packed. The spaces she once occupied were now empty, stripped of her presence, her betrayal echoing in their absence. From that night on, one truth remained unshakable. Once trust is broken, it can never be repaired. But I didn't stop there. I didn't just take revenge. I rebuilt. I started a new chapter, stronger and more resilient than ever. Katie's betrayal became nothing more than a distant memory, a scar that reminded me of the strength I had found in its wake.